everybody from the neighborhood knew Jack Gacy.
I was clowning and appearing in at least 10, 15 parades.
He was also a Democratic precinct captain.
He seemed very personable, very friendly.
But he could turn on a dime.
There is a right way, there's a wrong way, and there's my way.
Was he insane or was he evil?
Conversations with the Killer, John Wayne Gacy, is a new documentary premiering tomorrow on Netflix. The three-part series features new interviews with investigators, victims' families, and testimony from one of Gacy's survivors. It all seeks to answer the crucial question, what allowed a public figure like John Wayne Gacy to kill so many for so long?
Joe Berlinger is the director. He joins us this morning. Joe, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So, you know, here in Chicago, we've heard the name John Wayne Gacy for years, and we feel like we've heard every possible thing that could have come out about John Wayne Gacy. What did you find that we might not have heard about?
That is true for Chicagoans. It is a well-known story, but one of the things that makes this, I think, compelling is we have a bunch of people who have never spoken before, giving us some very compelling testimony. In particular, a guy named Steve Nemmers, who is a survivor of a Gacy attack and really gives us incredible insight into how that, you know, the psychology of how he got people to take him into his confidence. And we also have these incredible tapes that have never been heard before. You know, so look, many people know the story of Gacy, but I think you can never tell the Gacy story enough, particularly for a new generation, because he just represents, you know, we want to think that serial killers act and look like serial killers all the time, so that we feel we can identify them and not become a victim. But what Gacy teaches us is that, you know, these guys can be, you know, your trusted colleague, your coworker, your father, your brother. Gacy was a master of disguise and deception, and sadly lured so many people to their deaths. You mentioned some tapes, the audio tapes, videotapes. What's on them? Yeah, there's a very compelling audio tape that we got from members of the defense team who want to remain anonymous, but these are tapes that have never been heard before. Are they tapes of him, John Wayne Gacy, speaking, or attorneys? It's conversations, basically prepping for trial, and it was kind of a no-holds-barred conversation that really gets into the mindset of what his thinking was at the time. And you mentioned one of his victims, the Steve Nemmers, talks for the first time. How, after all these years, how did you convince him to go on camera and speak? Well, I think he saw our previous series and our previous shows, and he recognized that we do things with integrity and with a victim focus. You know, that's also a big difference. A lot of the shows that have done, you know, have been focused on Gacy as a perpetrator and not so much on the victims, and this show is much more victim focused. In fact, we detail how, and one of the other reasons to keep telling the story is that they are still continuing to identify the 8 unidentified victims at the time. So 3 so far using DNA technology in the last couple of years, 3 unidentified victims have been identified. You also make the choice in this series to show some of those, the new footage of unearthing the bodies. And I think, you know, in the news media, we haven't seen a lot of that. Is it just to show people just how horrible this was, or should people be warned about it? Is it that grim? You know, it is tough footage, and people are warned at the beginning of the show. So, but it's important to understand just the horror of what this guy did, because it's why we're still talking about it. You know, basically because of the prevailing values of the day. The other reason I wanted to tell the story is that people who had a gay lifestyle back then were not treated the same way as they are treated today, and the police kind of looked the other way with a lot of these clues that could have brought him to justice much more quickly. So the horror of what he did and the idea that all victims of crime deserve the same dignity was part of my thinking there. So of the new people that you interview in this documentary, you mentioned one of his survivors, Francis Wayne Alexander. Do you feel like that he was probably the best source to get a picture of what he was actually like? I think he was one of the identified victims, was he not, Joe? Well, who was the survivor you mentioned? Yeah. The survivor was Steve Nemmers. Steve Nemmers, yes, thank you. Yeah. Sorry, what was the question? Just who knew him best of the new interviews that you do in the documentary? What do you mean, who knew him best?
So who had the best idea of who John Gacy was and what was going on in his mind?
Oh, I mean, a lot of these people were directly involved in the case. We have the original prosecutor, Terry Sullivan. We have the investigating police. So a lot of people provide a lot of perspective, but he provides some incredible perspective of what it's like to be alone in the room with somebody like Gacy.
Well, it's fascinating, and we appreciate you joining us, Joe. It's Conversations with the Killer, the John Wayne Gacy tapes. It starts streaming on Netflix tomorrow, and you can follow Joe Berlinger on Twitter or Instagram. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.